There was a certain man who loved to go to synagogue and listen to the wisdom of his rabbi as they spoke about Torah. And he especially liked it when his rabbi would speak about paradise, because paradise was a remarkable place. Paradise, there was no suffering. Paradise, it was simple joy. Paradise, people treated each other well. In paradise, everything was better and everything was more beautiful. So one day the man came home from the synagogue and he said to his wife, "I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I'm going to leave you." And she goes, "Really? Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm going to paradise. The rabbi says it's a beautiful place. Everything is more beautiful. People are kinder. Everything is perfect in paradise." She understood a little more than he did, so she said, "Okay, I'll pack you a lunch." So the next morning he got up and she handed him a lunch and he walked out the door. And he walked and he walked and he walked and he stopped and he rested. And then he walked and he walked and he walked some more, and it was starting to get close to dark. So he said, "Well, I better sit down and eat." And he ate his lunch. And then he thought, "You know what? I'll finish my journey to paradise tomorrow. It's farther than I thought it was." And so he started to crawl into the bushes to go to sleep, but he thought, well, how am I supposed to remember? I know what I'll do. And he took off his shoes and he put them on the side of the road so they pointed toward paradise. That way in the morning, all he had to do is step back in his shoes and keep on going. Well, as he was asleep in the bushes, some trickster people came by and they saw the shoes and they saw his feet sticking out of the bushes, and they knew what was going on. And so just for the fun of it, they picked up those shoes and turned them and pointed them the other way. Well, the next morning when he awoke, the man got up and he looked at his shoes and he stepped into them and he started walking toward paradise. And he walked and he walked and he walked. And he thought, paradise is really a long way away. And he walked and he walked and he walked, and just as it was starting to get to dark, he came to a village. And he looked at it and he said, "I've arrived in paradise." And as he walked through, he said, "Paradise looks a lot like the place I came from. These houses all look familiar, but the rabbi was right. They're more beautiful here than they were back where I come from." And as he walked, he came to a house and he said, "This looks just like my house, but it's much better kept than the one I have. I wonder who lives here." And he walked up and he knocked, and his wife answered the door. And he said, "Imagine that. Where I come from, there's a woman that looks remarkably like you. But you are so much more beautiful than she is. Such is the way of paradise." And she smiled at that, and she opened the door and she said, "Would you like to get something to eat?" And he said, "Well, I would love to. People are so kind in paradise." And she fixed him up a meal, his favorite, and he sat down and she put the food in front of him. He says, "This is my favorite meal." And he took a bite and he says, "Oh, but even the food tastes better in paradise." And she says, "Really?" She said, "Would you like to stay in paradise?" And he said, "I would love to stay in paradise." She says, "Well, I'm obviously in need of a husband. Would you be my husband?" And he says, "The women are even sweeter in paradise. Of course I'll be your husband." And so it was that the man and that woman ended up living all the rest of their days right there in paradise. And that is my story.